This is where the world began. This was Caesar's highway, Hannibal's road to glory. These were the trading routes. The Byzantines, the Ottomans, Carthaginians. My grandfather used to say that if you look carefully, you can still make out the wakes of their ships. Our favorite food is bottarga, which is salted roe. It tastes like being hit in the face by a wave that you didn't see coming. We all came from the sea, and back to the sea we will go. The Mediterranean gave birth to the world. Now, on a clear day, I am Caesar. The prow of the boat cuts the horizon in two. Sunlight shatters on the waves. Dolphins, great flocks of birds. The ocean sucks and pulses like a giant lung, giving life to the world. Even as the wind pushes the air out of my lungs, making it hard to breathe. You know, I forget this is a job. I forget why I am here, except to be alive. And then I see, and I remember why. The slung has little black spots floating on the surface, distant, hardly visible in the light. The boat gets closer, salvo cuts the engine, and we drift alongside. Now the bodies of the drowned are more varied than you'd think. Some are warped, rotted, bloated to 3 times their natural size, and twisted into these fantastical and disgusting shapes, like in that story that my grandmother used to tell me. Dead of winter sent shivers down your spine. But then others are calm, no sign of struggle, as if they're dozing off on a lazy summer afternoon, and like a gentle tap on the arm will bring them right back. Those are the hardest because they are the most human. They're overwhelmingly young, the dead, the 20s, 30s at most, the kids. A lot of them. Well, you have to be to make the journey, I suppose. It's strange to see so many young people dead. It's unnatural. Everybody tries at one time or another to wake the ones that still look human. You know, a splash of water in the face, a pinch, come on, get up! Now, the state of a drowned corpse depends on several factors, like how long it's been in the water, temperature, tides. If tides bring colder water from the depths, then the bodies of the drowned can remain relatively intact for a surprisingly long time. But this has 2 consequences, that although colder water preserves the bodies, it also alters the makeup of human flesh, physically, chemically. I don't exactly know how, but they come apart in your hands. If they've been in a drink a while, they fall apart, they come to pieces. The sensation is like lumpy oiled garbage bags sliding through your fingers. And second is that colder water brings more fish. Now the dead lie face down, their heads lolling up and down in the water, and fish go for the easiest parts to reach. Eyelids, fingertips, pieces of the face, anything not covered by clothing, basically. The bulging eyes of the dead. That's how you know they're gone. I mean, the shock and the sheer horror of it all eventually goes away, but the sense of dread as we're pulling up, of not knowing what we're going to find, that never goes away.
I get all kinds of reactions. There's those who act like it's nothing. Can you come back later, love, and watching the telly? Yeah, well, a television means you have assets and therefore you have means of repayment. Isn't that right, madam? or they look at you different then. Then there's those who pretend not to understand English. So we have to use sign language. There's those who do a run-up. I had a bloke jump out the window on me the other day. Not sure he remembered he were on the 3rd floor. And he broke his ankle in 2 places. And as I caught up with him, hobbling across the car park, he goes, "Oh, there you are, love. Sorry, left me checkbook in my car." Yeah. And then there are the creative ones. And generally I find that the madder the excuses, the more likely they are to be true. For example, today, this fellow went, "Oh, I can't deal with this now. Me python's just eaten me dog." So I go after him, and fuck me if there isn't a massive snake lying across the carpet in a food coma, and bang in the middle of its belly is a dog-shaped bulge so tight you can actually make out the curls of the poor bugger's fur. "That's a miniature schnauzer, ain't it?" I said to him. "Lovely dogs, full of energy." He went mad. All types of reactions. But the overriding one is those people who don't take it seriously, like it's not really happening to them here, now. People are strange when you're a stranger, yeah? Now, it's a myth that we send the big guys round at the drop of a hat to collect the money. There's a range of options available to us. What we first do is we put out a CPA, and that's a Continuous Payment Authority, on the bank account. And now this gives us access to income streams ahead of other claimants, like rent and such. And then it's calls to the house, to the employer, should there be one, and letters. And then when none of this works, a more direct approach is required. And that is where I come in. Now, the company prefers to send a woman. They think that leads to less violence. 2 flaws with that theory. First is that men don't like to be embarrassed by a woman, and they especially don't like being asked for money. It hurts their pride. And imagine they ask for money by someone wearing this. Yeah, so there are incidents. The other thing is that half our clients are women. And the dirty little secret of women is women fucking hate each other. I've never been afraid collecting off a man, but I dread dealing with a woman. Nails down your cheek, spitting, the nastiest, most malicious abuse about me race, me face, me body, me religion. Yeah. They judge me doing this job the way that they'd never judge a man. Yeah, like I've violated some code of solidarity that they never let me in on in the first place. The girls I went to school with, they call me a bloody illegal in class, and now they're asking how I can live with myself. Oh, I tell them, this is what working class jobs used to be. Flexible, paid overtime. We're a growth industry. Us and prisons. It's not my fault you ain't kept up with modernity, yeah? But the ones that proper piss me off are those who make out that they are fighting the man by spunking somebody else's money on a massive flat screen TV. Oh, this one's sack of lard, and I swear she spent her entire load on McDonald's because she was visible from space. Yeah? She kept going on about how I were the traitor to the working class. Now, normally I try to stay, dispassionate, keep a professional distance, but this one deserved a little something. So, as we were serving the papers, I said, "And what do you know about working class? You've never had either in your life." That shut her up. The bottom line is, if you can't afford to pay back a loan, don't take one out. And don't sit there quoting me figures. "Oh, I only took out this much, and you lot won 3 times as much back. Thank you, Stephen Hawking. I can do the maths as well." The interest rate is there in black and white. Learn some discipline. If you haven't got the money, do without. I have. I do.
My father was a fisherman, and And his father before that, and before that, and before that. And I always thought, well, actually I knew that I would make my living at sea. But the fish are gone. The Mediterranean is dead. It's dead. And nowadays my job is to fish out a very different harvest. 3 years without work. 3 years waiting, queuing, and these niggly little bribes to this man who says he can help, and then you go home and you sit and you wait and you wait, nothing happens. And then you go and see him again and he looks at you and he shrugs and smiles and coughs this wheezy, smoky laugh. Doesn't give you your bribe back. So you start again, your hopes sinking like a pinhole boat. Turns down for things you turned your nose up at before. And then borrowing money from my dad and from Kiara's mom fucking hates me. Finally this, the job that nobody else wants. I fucking wish the migrants would stop coming. But not in the way that Salvo does, though. No, Salvo's problem is that he is an idealist. You see, he joined to rescue people, to help. And that is the worst kind, because it is to help, but on their terms. And rescuing people is not even the key part to this job. The key to this job are the dead. And so Salvo began very quickly to hate the dead because they just kept coming and they wouldn't stop. And he began to take it personally, like they were dying just to upset him, just to make him feel a failure. And now he calls them niggers. And he's going to vote for Berlusconi in the next election. I mean, ridiculous. First and foremost, Berlusconi's not even contesting the next election. Read the papers, you twat. And secondly, it's because they are not only black. I mean, Syrians are the latest thing. Palestinians, since Gaza got bombed. Egyptians. And look, we read about it in the papers. And there's a war, there's a famine, and we say, they're going to be here next. It makes me laugh when they call them economic migrants. It's like an earthquake. You feel the tremors far away, and you know the tidal wave is coming. But my beef is, why us? We're a small island in the middle of nowhere. The refugee center is swamped. I mean, 1,200 people in a place built for 200. I mean, you have people sleeping on blankets in the streets, kids playing in the dust behind barbed wire. It's embarrassing. Looks like fucking Guantanamo. And then a chicken goes missing or some washing of the line. Woo, they're shouting, and we are the ones who look small-minded. But where is everybody else? Where the fuck is Europe? I mean, why are we, a dusty little island that nobody's even heard of, left to deal with this on our own? Can't the migrants understand that Europe is fucked? And that Italy is double fucked? And the south of Italy is treble fucked? My brother, much smarter than me, degree in biochemistry. He went to London to find work as a chef. He says that the sous chef is a geneticist from Greece, and the kitchen porter is a biologist from Spain, and together, in their free time, that's in between courses, they work on a cure for cancer. That's a joke. They don't get any free time. In Italy, everything is fucked, and the middle-aged cling grimly to their jobs and suffocate the rest of us, and nobody knows what to do about it. I mean, pessimism is our new national sport. You can see it in our football. And these survivors, these lucky ones, they come on land with these shining, gleaming eyes. And I resent them for it. I resent them for it. I resent them for their hope.
Here's something I found out the other day. 9 of the 10 poorest regions in Northern Europe are in Great Britain. Would you like to know where they are? Yeah, I'll tell you. West Wales, Cornwall, Tees Valley, Lincolnshire, the Independent Republic of South Yorkshire, Shropshire, Staffordshire, Lancashire, and Northern Ireland. Those are the top 8. 9th is some Wankstein in Belgium, and the 10th is East Yorkshire. Now, we also have one entry in the list of the 10 richest areas. It's the top entry, in fact. Can you guess where it is? Can you?
London.
Well done, ma'am. Inner London, to be precise. Yeah, I put all that in my politics essay, and that's why I do the job I do. It's to pay for my degree. And I got the results today. C+. Yeah, 2 on the nose. A lack of balance. Yeah, well, these are government figures. No one else had them figures in their work. I know. I checked. Yeah. The prospectus of this university claims to encourage original thinking. Yeah, well, do you want the truth or don't you? I was spat at on the bus this morning. A couple of public school boys, I'd say. I've not heard bloody terrorist and fucking migrant in that accent till recently. But lately I get it quite a bit. Middle class people think racism is free speech now. All those twats with their Je suis Charlie t-shirts. But Syrians were once the most privileged of migrants. Now we've become the ones it's okay to hate. The ones you can say stuff to us faces because we'll do nothing back. Because all we're good for is selling hummus and painting houses because we charge cheap rates. You can say stuff to Syrians now that you wouldn't even say to other Muslims. And do you know that the war in Syria has turned half of its population into refugees? And I'm not even a proper one. Don't fit in anywhere, me. Mixed, English man, Syrian dad. Mouthy. And poor. The hatred in this country now. The hatred and the bitterness and the rage, the misplaced, thick, ignorant rage, blaming fucking migrants for everything that we don't like about ourselves. 4 o'clock this afternoon, for example, I was soaked to the skin and I'd already been up and down so many piss-stained staircases. I knock on another door, and yet another snide little prick yawns in me face and kicks aside a knee-high pile of takeaway cartons. Yeah. He spat at me when I asked him to pay, like I was the one in the wrong. And in a foul-mouthed rant, he told me to go back to my country. And he didn't have a Romanian or Serb accent, let me tell you that. If you want to blame anyone for the state of England now, blame people like him. All the lazy bastards. I do. That's why I voted Tory. But don't blame the migrants. Don't blame the migrants. Migrants don't scrape together their life savings, leave their loved ones behind, drive and fight and struggle their way onto the undercarriage of a train or into a tiny hidden compartment in a lorry with 40 other people, watch their mates die or get raped, and all for the express purpose of blagging £76.42 a week of social benefits. People don't act like that. And if you need to believe they do, then what does that say about you? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter how many times my own bloody mother tells me I'm too old and I'm too stupid to pass. I'm going to murder these exams. I'm going to Oscar them, as I like to call it. Oscar stupid stories. And if the results are good enough, I can go anywhere. Australia, America, who knows? Maybe even Syria one day. That'd be fucking ironic, wouldn't it? Anywhere but here. Slam the door on this washed up country, turn me back and be free. I don't know what free is or where I'll find it. But that's where I'm going. And no one will stop me.
Dawn. It's a beautiful morning. Not a ripple on the water. The rocks bathed with peach and apricot. The breeze like a sigh of happiness. And the fucking boat won't start. It's me and Salvo. We fiddled with the engine for half an hour. No joy. We're about to pack it in when one of the mounds of rags on the pier starts to stir and yawn. Stocky, wine-dark skin. Nigerian, my guess. You know, I've got pretty good at telling the difference. Somalis, Eritrean, Senegalese. I take a bit of pride in it as it goes. We have bets on who's who, and I won a few drinks on it. Well. Anyway, so he watches us cursing and sweating for a while. This lad doesn't lift a finger to help. In the end, Salvo storms off, lobs a few choice words in this fellow's direction. Short pause, he gets up. I'm thinking he's going to go and wake his mates to come and watch. And then he fixes the boat. 5 minutes it took him. Easy for me, he says. Modibo from Mali, a boat mechanic. So I say, what the fuck do you need a boat mechanic for in the Sahara? And he says, no, it is why Europe need me. Boats, planes, cars, all I can do. You want drink coffee? What, you want me to buy you a coffee? No, I buy for you, he said. Big smile this time. No thanks, mate. I've got to go to work. So he offers to get into the boat again just in case the engine packs up again. Chirpy fucker. You have to keep them at arm's length. If you let them get too close, you never know what they're going to ask. I mean, on the boat, the survivors, they talk to me, pleading their case, like I can do anything for them. It is not my job to listen to their stories. And it makes you think that the randomness of, I get to walk these streets and he doesn't. I tell you, you start thinking like that, and the ground becomes ocean under your feet. And imagine, he gets into the boat, and the engine breaks down again, and he fixes it again. Well, and the bosses hear about it. That he can do things that I can't do for half the price. And you have to think about things like that. Here, now, in Europe 2016, you have to cover your ass from every angle. So anyway, I thank this fellow, shake his hand, call Salvo, and away we go. And he stands there on the pier, this big, gormless lump, waving. And I'm thinking, that's the end of it. Except the poor bastard definitely hasn't got the memo that we're not going to be mates. Because I keep running into him, and he keeps being nice. Keep this big, guileless smile. What the fuck has he got to smile about anyway? I mean, keeps offering to buy me an espresso, like he's made of money. And it'd be rude to say no. But then Salvo sees us in this cafe and gives me this look and mutters something about soft touch. He's paying gobshite. Speaks shit Italian, this Modibo, so I say, why come to a country where you don't speak the language of? And he says, no, I come to Europe. The language of Europe is English. Then he tells me something in English. I don't understand it, so I tell him, Fungo. He understands that. He's Italian, he's getting better already. Plays me a song, too. It's called Lampedusa. It's supposed to be about all the people who have come here in search of a better life. About the drowning, the terror, the hopes, the future. I don't know if I can hear all that in there personally, but it's beautiful. Listen. Now his village was burnt down twice. Once by the army, who said it was a stronghold of Islamic fundamentalists. And the second time by the Islamic fundamentalists, who said it was a stronghold of the army. The second time round, they gave them 1 hour to pack up and leave, otherwise they would kill everyone who stayed behind. So he stashed his family and came here to earn money, start afresh. I mean, that is his story. God knows how much of it is true. He could be making it all up. Mali. That's fucking exotic.
Have you heard of ATOS? ATOS, A-T-O-S. Have you? I'll explain. They do work capability assessments. So they go to morgues, to plane crashes, to outbreaks of bubonic plague, and they tell everyone, oh, you'll be fine. It's just a head cold. Oh, and by the way, your benefits have been stopped. Well, me ma'am got the dreaded ATOS call today. Now, ma'am's been called a lot of things over the years. She's gone from retarded to slow to disabled to differently abled. Sounds like progress, doesn't it? Funny though, she's not treated any better. And she's none of those things as it happens. She just don't like people. She especially don't like foreigners, which she obviously made an exception for at least once. Though she never explained why. And he fucked off when I was 10. One of the walls of man's heart is bigger than it should be, and this causes high blood pressure, hypertension, dizzy spells, collapses. She's a proper case, not like some of the ones I deal with. There's no way she can work. She's 62 years old, sick, thick. She thinks a CV is an old French car. Hardly getting a corner office, is she? Now, the thing about ATOS is they're easy to play. They work on a target matrix, which is pretty much like us. And that's the advantage of working for a payday loan company. You get an insight into British society. So what you have to do is play the matrix. Play the spastic, basically. I know it sounds harsh, but when you go there, ma'am, just be aware of everything. All the little things that you do in everyday life. When you go to their offices, they are watching you like a hawk, and they will use them against you. Can you get up unaided? Can you walk? Yeah, then you're not physically impaired. Did you respond right away when they called out your name? Did you fill out the form by yourself? Then you've not got mental problems. Yeah? And they've got hidden cameras in their offices so they can analyse all of this at their leisure. Being well dressed, oh, that's bad. Awareness of social norms. Pets, those are bad. Ability to look after others. Hobbies, those are bad too. Ability to function socially. And all those abilities mean only one thing. You can work. That's what they do. They take all the things that we do to make a good impression, that we do to prove that we are human beings, and they use them to fuck you. That's the cruelty of it. That's the breathtaking cruelty of it. Now, to pass an ATOS test, you have to be, or play, a locked-in idiot with no social skills, no friends, nobody who's ever loved them in the entire history of the world. Donald Trump, basically. Man's flapping. She's panicking. She can't catch her breath. How will she live without her money? Stop flapping, ma'am, I tell her. It's those who don't know how the system works who need to worry. An odd thing came out of this, as it happens. I was at a client's flat, and she'd been tricky to get hold of. She was out of stood, but I found her. And I'm at her flat, and ma'am kept ringing, and it was right embarrassingly, actually. It was right embarrassing, actually. And most of the clients I deal with, they know how to turn a situation like this to their advantage. But this lass, are you all right? She asks me. Yeah, I'm fine. Let's get back to the matter at hand. Would you like a cup of tea? I don't like to be rude, unless it's earned. So we sit at the kitchen table and talk, and there's this expression on her face. Carolina, her name is, Portuguese lass, on her own with a young child named Jaden. I don't like kids. I think it's all about them, don't they? And we talk about this and about that, but in my mind, back in my mind, there's only one question. What's your game? Are you trying to butter us up so that I'll let you off your money, because I can't do that. But that face of hers, guileless, I think the word is. And she just seemed to like me. In the end, she invited me to dinner tomorrow night. And she's making some Portuguese speciality with salted cod. It sounds absolutely disgusting, to be honest, but I shouldn't go. It's against regulations. But I think she could use the company.
Dead kids weigh fucking nothing. That's what I learned today. You need a couple of men to haul in an adult corpse, but you only need one arm to bring in a dead kid. Of course, usually they've been in the water a while, so they got waterlogged, but this lot were barely in for half an hour. We hardly needed the boat. We could have waded out. This morning, a migrant boat, unusually overloaded, even by migrant boat standards, capsized just within sight of Rabbit Beach. So now we're looking at north of 350 people. Salvo and I recovered 72. Kids mostly. Women and kids. They're running women-only boats now because they weigh less, so you can fit in more. And then in the middle of the ocean, the smugglers can make another stop and ask for one more payment. I mean, it's bad enough when you're 25, but when you're 5 years old. Oh. Last year, the users of TripAdvisor voted Rabbit Beach as the most beautiful beach in the world. But it's called Rabbit Beach because they used to breed rabbits there. Before the tourists came. We're not a poetic people. Between the migrant game and the tourist trade and those who supply the NGOs and the refugee centers, a lot of people on this island are starting to make a lot of money suddenly. And God forbid anybody stops the tourist trade. The Russians are probably there already, happy to get it all to themselves. Save the odd corpse. Our lot rushing to serve them cold drinks. They don't give a flying fuck about anyone, do they, the Russians? This is my holiday. I earn it. Huh? Fucking ugly, too. When they sunbathe, the men look like the drowned migrants, but fatter. And the numbers, the fucking numbers. We pulled out 4 times as many dead last year as the year before. 4 times! That is almost 3,000 people. And those are just the ones we found. This year, to date, 5 times as many. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. We are drowning in media with corrupt politicians, and not a fucking thing changes. More boats keep pouring in, boats from Turkey, from Libya, from Syria, boats with no crews set on a course to crash into Europe. Rescue guaranteed, because nobody wants a shipwreck off their coast. And so the price of the ticket goes up. Ingenious fuckers, these smugglers. Did you know that if you wanted to stay on the top part of the boat, you have to pay more? Those who can't afford it will be put down into the hold, and guaranteed, if something happens, you are dead. In an incident between Malta and Libya last August, the traffickers pointed their arms at the people sitting on top and told them to sit on the latch leading to the hold, so the ones down there could not get out. The boat goes down, 200 died. On the radio this morning they said that this is the biggest mass migration since the Second World War. All we do is let them drown. So I ask Sal, what are we going to do? And he says, drink! He storms off, and his big broad back to me, shoulders hunched behind his ears. Modibo was standing on the pier, looking at the rows of bodies, his face haunted. I can only guess what or who he's thinking of. I have never seen him without a smile before. And then very slowly he turns to me and quietly he says,
It's deliberate. Our glorious leaders want the migrants to drown as a deterrent, a warning to the others. They want them to see the TV footage of the bloated bodies and the rotted faces of those who trod the watery way of death, so that they will hesitate before ever setting foot in one of those rickety little death traps.
And then he says that they do see the TV footage, but they get in anyway. They know the dangers involved, but they still get in because, in his words,
if those men in their offices knew what we were coming from, they'd know we would never, ever stop.
We should have done it. We should have gone out. We should have fucking done it. This morning, a migrant boat, unusually overloaded even by migrant boat standards, capsized just within sight. Oh, we got an alert that there was an alert from a civilian call that there was a migrant boat in danger. But you can't just take a boat off your own bat, and you have to get permission from the authorities first. So we called it in, and we sat, and we waited, and we could have saved them, at least some of them. You know, it's fucking unfair. To be within sight of land, to be within touching distance of safety, boat to go down, is fucking unfair. Now, I don't know, maybe it makes no difference. Dying here within sight of land and dying in the middle of the blue desert and nobody knows you're gone, maybe there's no fucking difference! I don't fucking know! You know, all I can tell you is how I feel.
Bacalhau. That's what they call it. The Portuguese salt cod thing. Bacalhau. And you have to soak it for 24 hours before you make it. Oh, I was right touched by that. She'd gone through all that trouble. And then it's butter, potatoes, onions, garlic, peppers, parsley, and then chopped olives and hard-boiled eggs. And then she sticks this plate in front of me and smiles. And I lift a fork to my mouth and you know what I'm thinking. Yeah. I'm from Leeds, for fuck's sake. I'm from fucking Leeds. This is not for me. But it were delicious. It were absolutely delicious. I had 2 helpings. And we got to gossiping. Men, school, work, kids, families, the lot. Now, she's not got a remarkable story, but it's not the remarkable stories that stick with you, is it? She came here to study English, met a fella, decided to stay, had Jaden, and then the fella fucked off. I mean, why do men do that? It's like you live in a haze. And the thing about Carolina is she hasn't got an ounce of self-pity. She's right in the middle of telling me all about her paediatric studies. Now, I can't spell the word, and she's studying it in a foreign language, so fair play. Yeah, and how fees have gone up and how childcare is so fucking expensive in this country. I just love the way she says fucking with a little growl. It's quite sexy, actually. And so she's fallen behind on the rent, and she's had to go to this arsehole company for money. And we've both totally forgotten that that's why I'm here. An excruciating pause. And then she laughs, and then I laugh, and so I tell her what she has to do to cancel the CPA that we put on her account. Send a registered letter to the bank 5 working days before the payment is due, and we can't touch her. It's incredible how ignorant people are of their rights in this country. Yeah. And the thing is, she's so bloody grateful. I mean, it's only a few months breathing space, but it seems to mean the world to her. Her fridge broke down last week. Jada needs new shoes. I don't make friends easily. I'm not a giver, a confider. I cling on to what I am, to my sense of self, like grim death, white bloody knuckles, because I've had to fight so bloody hard for every last inch of it. But tonight I feel something shift inside me. And then the phone rings.
I haven't been sleeping much. Lots of nightmares. Rotted fingers of the dead clutching at my throat. Faces of the long dead staring at me from the seabed. You know, people I'd forgotten that I'd fished out. Sitting there at the edge of the bed. Water pooling out onto the sheets. They never speak. But the carrion stink of them, and they just sit there. And they stare at me like I've betrayed them somehow. I mean, it's not the first time that I've woken up because of the smell. I get up, I open all the doors, all the windows, put on all the lights, and there is nothing there. Oh, Chiara understands. But she doesn't understand, you know. Now, we have an arrangement. Don't bring your work home, which is fair enough, but then after a few nights, she's starting to get pissed off. And, I tried the sofa, but the noise. I don't believe that I make any noise, but then the kids come running in and, no, Daddy, it's all right, go back to bed. I can't speak to anyone about it. Salvo would use it against me to hide his own fears and insecurities. We're fishermen. Fishermen die. You're not supposed to make a big deal out of it. You mourn and you get on with life while you still have it. But never have there been 350 people who have died within sight of land with nobody to mourn for them. Which is why the only person who understands is Modibo. He doesn't ask questions, he just listens. And he understands very often not the words, but the gist. See, they've all been through it. They've seen it. And they know people who haven't survived. They know exactly what's going on. Now, he got temporary leave to remain. Well, I guess his story checks out. Although God knows how they decide these things. The look of joy and happiness on his face when he found out is pure, unadulterated joy, jumping and hugging with his mates. And the look of happiness on their faces when they know that they won't get what he's got. And probably they'll all be sent back, and they were still genuinely happy for him. Lifts the fucking heart. It's been really good for me to be around him. He's becoming a real mate. So I said, why shouldn't I be a mate back?
I try not to go. I tell Carolina, it's just my mum. That's the way she is. Attention seeking. Bit of asthma, won't be serious. But she insists. She's your mother, of course I'll drive you. Oh, I hate going there. The state of the place. The grime between the bathroom tiles. The ring of encrusted shit in the toilet. The memories of boredom and terror. And there isn't a single book in the entire flat. How is that possible? Not a book, not a picture, not a piece of culture. And there never has been. Nothing to connect her to the rest of the human race. No food in the fridge. And it wouldn't matter if Mum were okay with it, but she's not. She hates it. And all she ever does is moan. It scares me shitless. It fucking scares me that I could end up like that. Like a dried up fly in a web that the spider forgot to eat. And that's what keeps me going. It keeps me pressing. But there's no reason for me to feel guilty. She doesn't like me. She never has. But we go. And I see me mum lying on the floor, gasping for breath in the midst of all this squalor. Nobody gives a toss, and I'm the one that's supposed to. And then Carolina walks in, and the look she gives me when she sees the state Mum's living in. A flood of shame. And you see the mildewed carpets and the peeling ceilings in a whole new light then. Paramedics were very quick. They said it was probably down to stress on top of her existing condition. They asked, is there anything worrying her? Anything in particular worrying her? It's a heart attack.
Modibo has sent for Aminata, his wife. He says that if he's going to be here for so long, then he can't stand to be without her. And that means that she's going to have to come in using the same route. Now, one of the most terrifying things for the families of migrants, and I never even thought about this, is that when they undertake the actual crossing, they are completely out of contact. The rest of the way, they have mobile phones, so they can stay in touch. But when they enter the blue desert, they disappear. Hours sitting, looking at your phone, wondering if the person that you love is ever going to ring it ever again. Aminata's boat left Libya yesterday morning. It's typically a 36-hour journey, but that depends on the engine and if the boat is overloaded or fucking overloaded. And if the weather is bad, and it can be brutal, then the trip can take several days. Days staring at your phone, wondering if it will ever ring again. So I offered to take a boat tonight to try and find her. The look on Modibo's face when I told him almost broke my heart. He gave me a picture of her, told me to take care, to come back safe, both of us.
They turf Mum out of hospital a few days later. The nurses, who are lovely, they wanted to keep her another week. But the consultant, who's a shiny-haired cunt, he mutters bed blockers and saunters off. I yell, are bed blockers not the same as sick people? But he doesn't stop, no. He obviously has an urgent golf course to attend to. So out Mum goes. Oh, she's in a pitiful state. She can barely hobble to the bus stop. And obviously she doesn't want me help. No. She snaps at me if I try to hold her arm. But I watch her stagger and wheeze her way through the puddles in the car park, almost on her hands and knees, and I think, oh, come on then, Atos, have a look at this and call her fit for work. I don't even have to coach her for the interview. Piece of piss. All you have to do, ma'am, when you go there is just be yourself. Your normal, warm and vibrant self, and we'll be okay. And then I watch her dress in the same shabby shit she's worn for donkey's years. Take a full 92 seconds to stagger from the waiting room to the office, drool slightly onto her forms, and I think, oh, we've got no problem here. And when the bastard shifts in his seat and throws a couple of questions my way, not many, no alarm bells go off. I know how to answer them. It's me. That's their excuse. Me. I provide a sufficient support structure to facilitate a return to paid employment. Without me, she'd get the 15 points that she needs for employment support allowance. But because of my obvious capacity to compensate for the shortcomings of the applicant, I've spent my entire life trying to get away from this woman, and they are tethering me to her till the day she dies. I go mad. 3 days solid on the phone arguing the case. She meets exceptional circumstances. She's got limited capacity for work or work-related activity. Oh, they hate that. They blank me, they block me, they fob me off. They spend thousands of pounds in man-hours just to deny us this pitifully, embarrassingly small sum of money. But I keep pressing and pressing, and you can hear the vitriol in their voices. But I win. I fight and I scratch and I beat them at their own game, and now they have to move the case to an appeals tribunal. Now, the system there is still rigged, but they've got to be a bit more public about it, so we stand a chance. Yeah. I prepare meticulously. I go through all the documentation. I prepare, ma'am. I leave no stone unturned this time. I prepare what I'm going to say, and I rehearse it and rehearse it. And the tribunal is this Thursday.
First it's still, but from the off you know it's coming. Salvo muttering and staring at the sky. In the dark we can't see the black clouds forming, but we know they are there, sticky, static, and then the wind picks up, and the waves start to lift the boat and thump it back down again. Now you can tell how much trouble you're in at sea by how hard the boat thumps down in between swells, and we are starting to hit the water pretty hard. Water is rock hard when you hit it like that. Your fillings jar in your mouth, rain thrashes on the windscreen, something smashes on the console. The pauses at the top of the waves get longer and longer. Huge waves loom out of the darkness like sea monsters. And then the sickening lurch down the trough, followed by the thump, vibrating in your guts, in your bones. Salvo is screaming at me. He's screaming at me at the top of his voice, and I can barely hear him, that this is insane, and that he's gonna turn us back. When suddenly, not far away, in between giant swells, I see a light, pitching and yelling in the water, obviously in big trouble. A migrant boat! I scream at Sal to head towards it, but he doesn't want to. You can see he's afraid. He is afraid for the both of us. But what kind of man, what kind of coast guard would let a boat go down? We swing around, and we are now perpendicular to the storm, and the waves are crashing over us. And this is when the boat can go down. I'm livid at Sal, veins popping, throat raw, to get us back in line. Get us back in line towards the light! When suddenly there is a flash of lightning! And in the corner of my eye, this Leviathan looms. A huge wave, as large as a tower block. It is so large, it's got little waterfalls coming down its crest. I freeze, and Salvo freezes, and Leviathan pounces, and you roar, and we are pushed under, and the whole boat goes under. The monster pushes us down, down, down into the depths, and I breathe salt water, and I don't know whether to cling onto the boat and let it sink, or let go and take my chances on the surface, when suddenly I realize it doesn't matter what I do. And then for some reason, for no reason, the boat squirms free and we pop up to the surface, gasping and choking, the roar of the storm even louder than before. I look at Sal. Salvo is as white as death. He looks like one of the drowned migrants. We are now heading into the teeth of the storm, and every time we try to climb up a wave, I don't think we're going to reach the top, but we are getting there. We're getting closer to the light, maybe a couple of 100 meters, and suddenly the light goes out. It vanishes. Salvo hunches over the wheel, his knuckles whiten even more than before as he lashes out at the boat. Pick up, you fuck! You fuck, you fucker, pick up! But the only thing that picks up is the wind. The storm holds us at arm's length, toying with us, not letting us get any closer. For half an hour we make absolutely no headway. And then suddenly, the wind stops. And the noises stop. A loud thump on the hull. Pause. And then another thump. And another. And another. And another. And another. Most of the equipment is broken or gone, but I do have a torch that is still working, and I don't want to turn it on. Please don't make me turn it on! But I do turn it on. And in the conical glare, we see them coming. The storm mockingly pushing them towards us. The black silhouettes of corpses, dozens of corpses. They're floating all around us, banks on the hull, coming in twos, coming in threes. I grab the first corpse that I see, wrench it aboard, turn it round, and he's got Modibo's face. I don't mean the body looks like Modibo. He is Modibo. He is my friend Modibo, only dead and gone. I scream and throw the body back into the ocean. Sal looks at me as if I've lost my mind. I lean on the boat and whimper like a child. Salvo grabs me and slaps me across the face and says, "You fucking brought us here! Now do your job! Get them up!" So somehow I get up and I lean over the side and I grab another body and I grab it up and turn it round and it's got Modibo's face. Every one of the 57 bodies that I recovered that night had Modibo's face. And I keep pulling them up. If I can't bring Aminata back alive, at least I back.
Man died the night before the tribunal. Massive coronary. Instantaneous. There'll be an inquest, but the paramedic, the same fella as before, he's really kind. He said it's impossible to tell if it's the worry that killed her, or if it would have happened anyway because of her condition. But I know. There were 3 of us at the funeral. The priest, the fellow who pushes the button to send the stiff down into the fiery furnace. He was chewing gum and staring out the window the whole time. Commitment to excellence, eh? And me. And then we were 5. Carolina and Jaden turned up. Poor little bugger, top day out for him, eh? Why are people kind? It's the most unlikely thing. At first I couldn't cry. You feel obliged to cry, but I couldn't. Till Carolina turned up. Tears from kindness, they just leaked out. I think I'll take her ashes to the moors on a windy day. Man hated walking. She absolutely loathed it, exactly where she wouldn't want to be. Scatter them far and wide, as far away as possible. Bye, man! Been telling myself that for a while now. Still got her though, for some reason. I've wanted to be unyoked from you for so long, and now that it's happened, I go straight back to work after the funeral. University won't let me graduate if I don't pay the fees. And cuts a bite in loans are rising. There's plenty of work. They say it's a recovery, but it's not a fucking recovery in Leeds, let me tell you that. But suddenly all their flats look like Mam's. The same streak of filth on the walls, the same worn through carpet with the underlay showing. The same sense of helplessness and hopelessness. And the other day, something proper mad happens. I'm collecting money off this old dear, and she's in floods. Now, obviously it's not easy, but you get hardened to it, and you think, oh, they're turning on the waterworks for your benefit, though she seemed genuine enough. She stops crying, and she looks into her handbag, and when she lifts her face, she's got Mam's face. Her dead, grey stare, full of reproach. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. I give the old dear another week and I rush out of bed. Can't wait for the lift, flight after flight of stairs, because she lives on the 14th floor. And behind me, echoing down the stairwell, her voice is calling out in gratitude. Oh. I quit my job that afternoon. I packed it in. I just couldn't take it anymore, you know.
We found her. It took all night, but we found her. There were only 3 survivors pulled out of the water that night, and Aminata was one of them. We sail back at dawn, the sky changing from grey to orange to blues. 5 live bodies and 57 dead ones. Nobody says a word. Each one in an ocean of thoughts. Sal kicks me and nods at Aminata and says, "Is that her? Is that why we came?" And I nod to say yes. "I have a son." That's all he tells me. A son! And he gives me his back, grabs the wheel, and doesn't say a word until we reach land. We're getting closer to the pier, and the pier is packed. There is a wall of people, and I'm scanning. I'm scanning for medieval space when suddenly we hear a splash. Somebody's jumped off the boat. It's Aminata. She's jumped into the shallows. And there's this kind of keening noise from the pier, and another splash. It's Modibo. He's jumped in as well. These two are swimming towards each other like rockets, like torpedoes, until finally they meet in this ecstasy, an explosion of joy, and they're hugging, they're laughing, they're crying, they are splashing around like a new fantastical sea creature. On the pier, there are people crying, there are people holding their hands to their mouth, there are others who are hugging. Even Salvo has tears in his eyes. The old cynic, though he won't admit it. So I say, thank you. He pretends not to hear me, but he heard me. I have never seen 2 happier people in all my life. Me? I still have 57 bodies to unload.
I don't go out for a few days, even though it's finals lectures and I'm so far behind. I can't fail now, not after all I've done. A knock on me locked door. It's Carolina.
You're not answering your phone.
Yes, no, I'm fine. Silence. Maybe she's gone. And then I lurch in my chest and she says,
I know this may sound strange, but I want you to come and live with us.
what? What are you talking about?
I have a sofa that opens up into a bed, and if we share the rent, then maybe I can start repaying my loan.
Is this a joke?
I don't trust people very easily, but you, for some reason, I trust. At least promise me that you'll think about it.
Fucking hell. Fucking hell. Why are people kind? She's just brought me this. It came today. It's my exam results. The final question on my final exam was about the monkey trap. Do you know the one? It's where the monkey can get its paw into the coconut shell to get to the treats, but then it can't pull its paw out with the treats in its fist, so the villagers can catch it. And the question was, what does this experiment show about the perils of untrammeled materialism? And you can see the answer that they wanted here, this home of original thinking. But the monkey trap has always meant something different to me. It's because I've never had the balls to put my hand in the first place. I could never admit that there was something I wanted. I knew I wouldn't get it, and I'd just be hurt. So I took a different tack. I wrote that empirical studies of the monkey trap experiment do not support the presumed hypothesis of inherent greed. To wit, in the vast majority of test cases, the monkeys let go of the treats. This shows that they understand the relative importance of grated coconut vis-à-vis their own bullocks. That wasn't my answer word for word, obviously. What I did write was that perhaps the monkey trap experiment is fundamentally an indicator of hope. It addresses our abilities to get away from our delusions, from our traps, and to save ourselves from our baser instincts. And my last sentence, and I can't believe I actually wrote this hippie shit, but fuck it. My last sentence was, perhaps the main aim of the experiment is for the monkeys to teach us something.
Modibo and Aminata had their second wedding today. The European wedding, they called it. To celebrate her coming back from the dead. Chiara lent her a dress. It looked really good on her, actually. Nothing fancy, just a party in the camp. Malian food, music, dancing, hugging, more dancing. I am shattered. I dragged Salvo along after much protest. There he is. He's still dancing. Didn't think much of the food, though. I was the guest of honor. Imagine that, the guest of honor. They've given us joy and hope. They've given us the things that we have nothing of. And I'm grateful for that. Now, they don't know if they will be sent back or if they will get to stay long term, but they are here. Now. In this moment. Alive and living. And what more can one ask for? I defy you to see the joy and happiness in Modibo and Aminata's faces and not feel hope.